If I could just do this one gig at this one bar and then on the way home stop at that fast food place with this $20, what more do I need? Don't tell anybody, I would have done it for free. I'm Dane Cook, and this is my aha moment.
So yeah, we're just gonna get into it real quick. I don't know.
When you say that, Becky, by the way, we're gonna get into it real quick. It means we're gonna fight. We're gonna get into it real quick. Okay, what are we gonna get into? The minute you start stand-up, you're out of your comfort zone. It is certainly a career of the unknown. This is so cheesy, but it's so perfect. There was like a junior high school dance, and I was a wallflower, and then all of a sudden, I found myself in the middle of the dance floor during a Prince song, and next thing you know, I'm doing this wild dance that I just came up with on the cuff, and everybody was standing in a circle laughing, and some probably pointing and laughing like, why is the kid that really never talks in school suddenly in the middle? I think that was probably the first time that I felt daring enough to come out of my shell. When I was a kid, like HBO was on the rise. If there was people in particular that stood out, I'd probably have to say Steve Martin was a person that I felt inspiration from. George Carlin, Richard Pryor. I got into these guys probably too early, but I loved it. At first, the goal was laughs at any cost. If I gotta kick over a table, if I gotta jump, if I gotta rip off my clothing, I don't care. I'm gonna get laughs. I'm gonna find something in the moment. I realized within a few years' time, I don't wanna pretend. I want to really feel like I can do those things, but I also want to add some other elements. And down the line, it was like, okay, I really need to curate a voice. Should these answers be longer for the cut?
You're perfect.
Longer on the answers. Got it. More wordy, Dane Cook. When I first got offered to do a headlining gig at a local college and they wanted to pay me for my time, right there, you're like, I made it, I'm done. I was trying to find the venue within the, in the school. I see the posters hanging up everywhere that they'd like painted. Dane Cook, headlining tonight. And I'm walking through and somebody in charge came up and said, are you looking for the comedy show? And I said, I am the comedy show. And I remember going up on stage. I think that was the first night. That school is where I did this whole chunk of, I guess what you call it, kind of nostalgia stuff. This is how I grew up. These are the things that I had. And something really kind of like almost magical happened.
This is anybody here 2.5 hours into a game of Monopoly. Here it is, ready? I quit!
Everybody in the room could identify sharing these memories that I had about certain games growing up or certain names that people called each other. So my aha moment was, stick with this. This is gonna transcend and take me somewhere else.
They shouldn't have called it Speak and Spell. What they should have called it, Speak Like the Devil. Remember the voice? A-E-I-O-U.
First New York show, I get on a spot called the Boston Comedy Club. Well, I remember I had to follow Tony Woods, but previous to that, Chappelle was on the show. I remember standing at the back of the room, I was like, I have no clue what I could even bring to this night because everybody was so incredibly prolific. And they're like, good luck, go up and do your thing. I just went with what I knew. And that set really was a defining moment for me. On a weekend, I could do anywhere from 8 to 11 spots in a night. You could start a new bit at 8 o'clock and it was finessed and polished by 2 a.m. But once you come to LA, what you do here, the word gets out. And when I came out, especially here, I was at the Laugh Factory the first night I ever performed, 1997, I believe. And I could either go back to New York and be one of a dozen guys and women my age, or I could stay here and I was like one of a couple. What is it about a car dealership that they think that a giant inflatable T-Rex is gonna make me fucking, I gotta get a Honda. People were finding comedy in a lot of ways at that point. Early streaming or downloading at that time, the rise of the comedy album and just listening to stand-up again, it was kind of exciting.
Karen is always a douchebag.
The night of Vicious Circle, that night was the accomplishment from everything from 1990 up.
What am I supposed to say when an atheist sneezes? When you die, nothing happens.
All the years of gigs and practice and hardship, it all worked for that night, and then even went beyond my own expectations. It was all upshot at that point. These aha moments. There's 1,000 of them that you start to, sometimes they slowly come together, and then sometimes there are things that you're like, I need to stop doing that and never do that again. The hardest part is you have to be willing to take away the blockades and the obstacles that we all naturally put up as people as a way to protect ourselves. So that's really stand up. It's not like, let me find a character and become it. It's let me figure out exactly who I am and remove the things that are in between me and the audience. Oh, I got it. No, let me take that. This will be good. Ready? I got something. Ready? Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Use it.
Here we go.
Found footage.
Okay.